Gungaga.
Hello once again, my chickadees. Game & Chick is back once again with another review. Before we get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to Square-Enix for providing me with a review copy of the game to make this review possible. Thank you very much. So now with that having been said, time to start the journey.
From where?
You are. You're a little more important than my sword. But just a little.
Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep.
Will I see you again?
Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a remake of the classic PSP title of the same name and is developed by Tosei and published by Square-Enix. With the original title back in 2007 becoming an instant classic and ushering in iconic characters for the franchise's lore, Square-Enix decided that it was finally time, after all these years, to bring it back to us once again. But was this a wise decision to bring it back? Did the reunion at hand bring joy? Or does it bring fear? Only one way to find out, so let's go! Story. Follow the story of Zack Fair, a young warrior admired by the boy destined to save the world, trusted by men renowned as heroes of legend, and loved by the girl who holds the fate of the planet in her hands. The tale of Zack's dreams and honor and legacy that connects him to Cloud and the even still to come begins now. Gameplay. Well, this is a whirlwind of a doozy if I do say so myself. Being a longtime Final Fantasy VII fan in general, with the original title being genuinely one of my favorite games of all time, I've had the privilege of not only being able to give my thoughts on this franchise in previous videos I've made, but I've also gotten the opportunity to review Final Fantasy VII Remake and its Yuffie add-on Intermission via review copies. If that wasn't enough to make me fangirl out, Square-Enix then decides to put me in an early grave with a heart attack by providing me with an early access copy of Crisis Core Reunion as well. I, like most Final Fantasy VII fans, consider this the starting point of everything that eventually comes to pass, such as the events of Cloud & Company fighting against the forces of Shinra and their corruption, the destruction of the planet, the terror of Sephiroth, Geostigma, Remnant Mama's Boys of Sephiroth, Wise, Deep Ground, Project G Degradation, Nero, and baby Yuffie punching the air thinking she's tough. Well, the Yuffie part isn't important, but the rest is vital. Now, I say that Crisis Core is considered the beginning, but is it really? No, in fact, with as vast as the compilation of Final Fantasy VII is, even before the days of Zack, Angeal, Genesis, Cloud, and Tifa, we had Before Crisis. Crisis Core, Before Crisis, these subtitles and names are all starting to sound like what I'm going to be going through during my midlife crisis when I'm in my 40s. But that's a topic for another mental breakdown day. Now, I can give the whole history lesson about the Turks and their leader Verdot. Elfie, the leader of Avalanche, whose broken materia she wears on her arm, gives her the strength and power equal to another legendary character, Sephiroth, but at the cost of getting her own life energy drained. The strategic and strong Shears of Avalanche, or even delve further into the Wutai War and the conflicts from within Shinra with scientists Hollander and Hojo. Believe me, like Captain America, I can do this all day. But then I'd have to go into further detail about the role Vincent ultimately plays in the events of Dirge, Lucretia being the birth mother of experiment we now know as Sephiroth, the Cetra, also known as the Ancients, and the role they played in humanity's mistakes in siphoning their thought to be cells that are used in experiments such as Project G that gave birth to Genesis, created Sephiroth, and made Cloud, Zack, Angeal, and other members of Soldier what they are today, which some call living monsters, which also ended up being a falsehood by Shinra. The events of calamity from the sky that saw Genova, an alien lifeform, crash into Earth thousands of years before our main hero's story takes place, and its deadly infection getting sealed away by the Setcher themselves at the North Crater, only to be excavated by Shinra scientists Gast, and used for the evils I just named with the experimentation on humans to create superhumans. Again, I could go on with this forever, and I haven't even gotten into the discussion about Wise and Nero and the secretive deep ground hidden at Mako Reactor Zero that made use of stagnant Mako to further subject test subjects to brutal training. Maybe I'll make a huge hour or so long video in the future going over the entire history of the Final Fantasy VII timeline, because it's quite a doozy. However, we really should get to talking about Crisis Core, shouldn't we? Yeah, my bad guys. Crisis Core Reunion is a near one-to-one remake of the 2007 title, but with numerous improvements for its gameplay and overall quality of life for us as the player. As briefly mentioned before, Crisis Core puts you in the shoes of second-class soldier Zack Fair as you witness the events that shape the future through his own eyes. All of Zack's actions and the actions of his friends and enemies further having drastic future consequences and influence over characters like Cloud, the Turks, Sephiroth, and even the mega corporation known as Shinra themselves. Cocky, brash, arrogant, heroic, and even a bit clumsy, our wannabe hero in the making often offers you as the player an endearing experience. No matter what he does or says, you can't hate this guy. He's just too impressionable. It's like going to a dog pound and seeing the wide-eyed puppy giving you the sad eyes. Even when you leave, you're going to remember that puppy. And the same applies here, only he won't woof at you or dance for dog treats. At least that we're aware of anyways. Because Angeal does call him a puppy, so maybe? Nah, no way. But maybe? Either way, he's a pound puppy that you will grow to care for and root for the further you trudge through and push forward through the main narrative. We open the game with Zack and Angeal riding on Thomas the Tank Engine, mowing down Shinra soldiers. And if you've played the original Final Fantasy VII, you will notice similarities between Cloud and Zack's train entrances. Only Zack's is way cooler, with slow motion jumping through narrow spaces and overall more agile. Arriving at your destination, you begin your first mission and briefly take on waves of enemies, and it is here where you learn your basic battle mechanics that consist of A to dodge, right bumper to block, X to consistently do melee strikes, and left bumper plus your facial buttons to use equipped materia such as fire, thunder, cure, and even special attacks for extra melee damage to initiate at the end of a normal combo attack. I played on Steam Deck with an Xbox controller, so that's why the buttons seem weird. Simple though, right? Well, sort of. To test you out and make sure you have the basics down to a T, you go up against big ol' fat boy behemoth. And it is here when a new mechanic for you is thrown into the mix, and that is DMW. Not to be confused with DMV, obviously, because Lord knows we all hate that place. It's as bad as being trapped in an elevator with Barrett, hearing him whine about protecting the planet for 5 hours. Chill, bro.
We gotta protect the f***ing planet, Cloud! Don't you see? The f***ing planet needs f***ing saving, and you ain't doing a damn thing about this sh**. Now what do you f***ing have to say about that?
Get help. So what is DMW exactly? Well, DMW stands for Digital Mind Wave, and in short, it's basically a slot machine that works off of Zack's memories, and when memories match up with 3 of the same memories in a row, a limit break will activate that relates to a memory he has to give him motivation. For example, his limit break could be in relation to Sephiroth that allows him to initiate Octoslash Rush of Sword Slicing, Fist Punching Fury when thinking of Angeal, Full Heal Spell when thinking of Aerith, or even going full on Call of Duty and performing an airstrike on your enemies, which is actually hilarious, especially when you do it to summons like Ifrit. Can't beat him with magic? Screw it, nuke him! And that's how we got Destroyer from Godzilla made, you guys, only with the hellfire of Ifrit. Yikes. Besides simply matching memories, numbers also play a key role in abilities you gain, or rather buffs you obtain should numbers match up with each other. A few examples of this are 777 giving you invincibility for a short period, 444 making all of your melee attacks cost 0 AP for a limited time, 222 making all magic spells like elemental attacks or curing cost 0, etc. With 15 DMWs to learn and obtain and roughly 19 limit breaks on top of it, alongside unlocking summon mode that gives you the chance to summon beasts like Ifrit or silly chocobos that stomp the ground, leaving a big paw print like it's Jurassic Park or something, it ultimately gives you something to work towards, which we'll go into detail in just a bit, as I'd like to dive into the story just a bit. Hopping back into the narrative, after beating Behemoth, you get overconfident and get taken down by Maybelline glorious-haired Sephiroth himself. What the heck, man? Don't tase me, bro! Luckily for you, this was all just a VR simulation to train Zack. Phew! Mr. Victoria's Secret would have whipped my booty pretty bad. From this point on, the casual story of the brother relationship between Zack and his mentor Angeal takes a drastically different turn as you learn that stupid-faced Genesis has defected and turned traitor like a loser, head to Wutai to end the ongoing war, learn the history of dumb apples. Wait, what? Angeal, what the heck did you just call me? Oh, you mean actual apples? Well, good thing for you. Boy, I would have wrecked you. Assault Fort Tamblin and have a Wutai soldier tell you,
Kill us. We will always go against Shinra if we draw breath.
well, if Zack won't do it, as he tells them no, then I for sure would. Zack isn't evil like that, but me? Heck no. You wanna die, bro? No problem.
Fatality.
While experiencing these story beats, the overall gameplay will remind you that this isn't a new game, built from the ground up for the first time, and instead reminds you that, yes, this is a remake or remaster of an actual PSP release from over 10 years ago. This is the most evident, with some missions feeling a tad bit repetitive, such as running through narrow pathways, taking on wave after wave of repeating enemies, small and condensed dungeons, and the dreadfully annoying lady that constantly yells at you, activating combat mode, and conflict resolved. Oh my god, lady, just shut your trap! I heard you the first 100 times! I don't know who's worse, her or the lady in Sonic Adventure telling me that the train is departing for the Mystic Ruins soon.
The train headed for the
No.
Mystic Ruins.
No!
The train
Don't do it.
for the Mystic.
Nope. Thank you! Luckily, to get around some tedious gameplay, you're able to take part in side quests that you can undertake as you traverse Midgard across places such as Sector 8, like getting your wallet stolen and chasing after the damn run who took it. Personally, I wanted to push him down into the sewer for Pennywise to eat, but Aerith says no, so my hands were tied. In addition to the mapping of materia and other special attacks on your facial button, you're also able to perform materia fusion, which entails you mixing and matching two materia together or an item to create brand new materia to use based off of your selections, which means you can make an even stronger elemental materia or form new melee attacks to further bolster your attack combinations in battle. And the end result is giving you hours of unique customization options that makes each playthrough more unique than your last one. In addition to your main scenario missions and side questing, you may also purchase much needed items from the shop from save points that can give you an edge in combat, and also be able to take part in extra missions for further rewards. But like I did to you before, we will get back to that in the extra stuff section, because we have way more important stuff to talk about this time. After you get confronted by little baby Yuffie, who thinks she's a great warrior of Wutai, and play along with her little games as she excitedly believes she beat you in a fight, while her hometown burns with dead bodies everywhere.
Ah! No! You got me!
Now teach you to mess with me. Once again, I saved Wutai.
You get to engage in a battle against Summon Ifrit that gets things really heated up. I'm sorry. Watch Sephiroth be a total badass and one-shot deities. Learn that just like Genesis, Angeal too has turned traitor and scream in disappointment.
You were supposed to defeat the traitors, not join them.
Go to Benora Village and learn that Genesis has pulled a Sasuke Uchiha and killed all the townspeople. Fail at a rocket slicing minigame and then get roasted to holy heck by Sung for failing really, really badly. The evil Bahamut that is summoned by Tim Burton meets Shakespeare man himself, Genesis. Watch a village get Raccoon City'd and nuked to oblivion. Get sidetracked in the Shinra HQ exhibit room, where you see all the really cool stuff you're eventually going to steal later on in the original FF7, such as the Aerith rescue mission, truck and airship, and even Little Mac's bike from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Well, maybe not that exactly. Hey! Get back here! Give me back my bike, ya bum! The story in Crisis Core is very somber overall, with the only real upbeat side of the game being the time you spend with Aerith in the slums and at her church. Zack and Aerith are absolutely adorable together, which makes knowing the things that are about to come to pass even more gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, knowing the inevitable. But holding in our dang ugly cry for now. Join up with Sephiroth to take down Angeal and Genesis, take in the flashback scene of Genesis, Angeal and Sephiroth when they were all best friends training together, and thinking how tragic this all is. Why is it so tragic? Well, as of this time, they're all friends, burden-free. But ultimately, it's these three individuals that end up turning the tide on the entire world for generations to come due to their actions. While their training fight is stunning, it leaves you with a feeling of sadness knowing everyone's fate and role they play going forward in the Final Fantasy compilation. And it makes you feel a bit of pity and remorse for them as characters, even though they do not deserve it. The tragic part of it all is that none of it is their fault that they turned out this way. They had their fate sealed the moment they were created or experimented on via Project G, and left with a life of being a ruthless killing machine or slowly dying to the side effect of the experiment called degradation that ultimately will kill you. So you're probably thinking, cool story and all, but isn't there anything new in this title over the original? Well, yes, but also no. While overall it's the same story beats and even combat functions mostly the same, from a graphical standpoint, especially on PC and the Steam Deck, this title feels along the lines of something like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and with its fresh coat of paint, can fool you into believing this is an entirely new game. You also have slight improvements to the combat, with combat from the original feeling like a more methodical pace to it, whereas here in Reunion, it feels like it's been sped up more with attacking and combat feeling vastly more smooth and way more responsive than the PSP counterpart did to me. Honestly, it felt like literally zero input lag, and every time something did happen to mess it up, 9 out of 10 times it's human error. Which, if you've been around long enough to know my gaming habits by now, you know I am very accident prone. As stated before, this game is a very emotional journey that has your feelings going from one minute you're angry at Genesis for turning on everyone, the next you're heartbroken for Zack after Angeal turns his back on him as well. But just as you're getting sad, you begin to laugh and have spirits uplifted by the perky and sweet Aerith as you teach her how to become a sculptor by growing flowers and selling them at a high price that would even make the merchant from Resident Evil 4 happy. And then, if you're like me, make up your own scenarios in your head, like when you're on the highway and get lifted up into the sky to fly to Shinra HQ by Angeal with his wings, which made me think of a romantic comedy as they soared away, flying high to the edge of the sky. Or, again, because I'm very, very weird, laughing at my own jokes during Chapter 3 as I take a look inside the tank and see something I did not expect to see.
There's a monster inside.
How wretched.
Like I said, you're in for an emotional roller coaster, and just like me, if you've played this title before or played FF7 Original, you will be holding in your ugly cry for a very long time in this title. Extra stuff. So, you do not wish to go to the story or just need a break from it? Not a problem, because in between your normal campaign missions, you will be able to take part in missions via save points that offer you new ways to earn rewards that range and vary between brand new materia, special equipment accessories, and even new functions like item infusion and summoning mode. These missions, for the most part, drop you off in a linear map, and your goal is to run around slaying enemies until you defeat the designated target. This can take you anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 minutes or more per mission you undertake, depending on the level of difficulty the mission is ranked and your own individual skill level. I won't lie, they aren't expansive or anything amazing, but some of them offer crucial items that are beneficial to you, so I advise you to take part in them whenever you have the opportunity. There's around 300 of them, so yeah, you'll have plenty of time sunk into this one should you go for the 100%. Plus, the mission where you end up making Yuffie cry is worth it in and of itself. What a freaking diva.
And here we have some boondoggle keychains. A must-have for this season's fashion.
Already made like affinity of those at scout camp.
Well, is anyone else here trying to earn money for college?
Hey Yuffie, your mom goes to college.
Dislikes. Contrary to what you've witnessed so far, this isn't a squeaky clean perfect remake and or remaster. Oh, how I wish. While I don't have anything game-breaking to talk about, or a rant to go into like I did in my FF7 Remake review, talking about the whispers, I do have smaller gripes such as combat can get a tad bit tedious at times when you're moving from hallway to hallway, fighting reused enemies for a span of 10 minutes. That can get pretty dang tiresome at certain points in the game when story isn't moving forward. Other annoyances are missions where you're chasing after Hollander to the basement, and it just goes on with him running 10 to 12 feet, stopping, you taking on 3 to 4 waves of enemies, and repeating over and over and over again. Very boring. During some missions, like Assault on Fort Tamblin on PC and Steam Deck, I experienced slight stuttering and frame rate dips at certain times when too much actions would take place, but overall seems isolated to just a few missions and is not evident throughout the entire game if I'm going to be fair. Lastly, I want to mention the difficulty spike. Man, oh man, the price of freedom for a balanced game is steep. Starting the game through the first 5 chapters roughly, the game ranges from an easy game to a title that is semi-challenging. but as you make your way through the second half of the game, prepare to get slaughtered due to the enemies having one-shot death attacks to immediately kill you. I mean, there's a new quality of life feature that lets you restart the fight after your death, but still, it's not enough to give the balancing a pass. Overall, at the end of the day, Square-Enix shows us once again that they have set the bar for other companies with how you handle a remake of one of your classic and cherished titles. Again, it's definitely not a perfect remake or remaster, with issues of balancing, tedious combat at times, some annoying missions feeling like filler, slight frame rate drops on PC, etc. But with improved combat smoothness, new voiced cast that delivers great performances, lovable and hateable characters, cute moments with Zack buying Aerith her iconic ribbon, plethora of side content to do that can keep you busy for hours with materia fusion and getting all DMW and limit breaks, engaging in intense boss fights that make you think on your toes, and a tragic ending to a beautifully told story that will stick with you for years to come, makes Crisis Core Reunion an absolute must-play, not only for fans of Final Fantasy VII, but any RPG fan out there in general. You will not regret it. So with all that having been said, my verdict is clear. Game & Chick says, buy now!
At Wingstop, we don't just make wings. We make wings worth obsessing.
Those wings. I want them too.
This is stupid. Bunch of dumbasses going around in circles.
Yeah, stupid. It's like just a bunch of dumbasses going around in circles.
Where's a roof when you need one?
This is the coolest show in the history of television.
Yeah, it's the coolest show in the history of television. Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is an action RPG that is developed and published by Square-Enix. Coming off of its success in the PlayStation 4, Square-Enix decided to re-release the game with better performance, graphical upgrades, texture fixes, as well as extra content in the form of Yuffie DLC that gives us a glimpse of what's going to come forward. But are all of the changes and fixes enough to warrant buying this on PS5? Or are you better off sticking with the PS4 version for now? Only one way to find out, so let's mosey! The planet's lifestream is being drained for energy by the Shinra Electric Power Company, a world-dominating mega corporation headquartered in the city of Midgar. Shinra's actions are weakening the planet, threatening its existence and all life that inhabits it. It's now up to ex-soldier Cloud Strife and the eco-terrorist group Avalanche to take the fight back to Shinra and stop them from draining the planet of all of its energy. But a conspiracy theory and a mystery unfolds that shakes the foundation of their plan to its core and changes not only their lives, but the lives of the entire planet as well. A much bigger threat is out there. Can they withstand it? Opening thoughts. Final Fantasy VII as a series itself has seen many additions to its ongoing story over the many years. Yes, I said ongoing. We'll touch on why I said that in a bit. Most people are familiar with the Compilation series that deals with titles like Crisis Core, Advent Children, and Dirge of Cerberus, all of which are either prequel titles like Crisis Core or sequels like Advent Children and Dirge of Cerberus. Long story short, if you truly want to understand what takes place in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you're going to have to play the compilation of games or watch the movie. I don't recommend to anyone who wants to keep their sanity to play Dirge of Cerberus, though. Find someone who did a playthrough and watch that in order to get an idea of the story, because for me personally, it just wasn't a good game, and put the FF7 universe in a weird and incoherent spot that till this day has fans divided on whether it's actually good or bad. Definitely a huge mixed bag. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding this franchise. I could get into things like Deep Ground that take us even further down this gigantic, never-ending rabbit hole, but we'll save that for the Yuffie review. So why exactly did I just explain all of this to you when you're just here for the review of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade? Well, that's because reviewing this title is personal for me on an emotional level. I grew up with Final Fantasy VII as a young, bad haircut kid who was more accustomed to platforming games like Mario's and Sonic, or bullet hells like Gradius, and hadn't yet dipped my light-up sneaker toes into the genre known as JRPG. But this all changed when I saw a commercial for the game. You know, the one with the guy saying, "The epic tale not found in theaters."
And a hatred that always was. And now, the most anticipated epic adventure of the year will never come to a theater near you. Final Fantasy VII.
My little kid brain was like, wow, that could be really fun! And little did I know that one game would change my gaming habits going forward permanently, and allow me to appreciate and discover classics like Legend of Mana, Chrono Trigger, Suikoden, Lunar, Dragon Quest, and many more. These are titles I may not have looked at, because my view was not opened up to new horizons thus far. When playing the original Final Fantasy VII, I was a bit confused at first. It was different than what my usual style of gameplay was. Why can't I just move whenever? Why do I have to wait my turn? What is ATB? What is materia? What is this? What is that? But the more I played it, the more I noticed how enthralled I was getting with its gameplay. And also now I'm getting invested into its characters and the world itself. Cloud is a huge jerk, and there's something terribly wrong with him, and I wanted to know why. Avalanche? Why are they taking down these things called Mako reactors? Except back then I said it as Mako and not really how it's supposed to be said, because, well, it's text and I knew no better. As I progressed further through the game, I became immersed in the environments of Midgar. These people living in the slums are being left to rot down beneath the plate because the Shinra Corporation gives no crap about them or their well-being, so they do what they can do to survive and salvage what they can to make a living. You genuinely grow a hatred for the Shinra Company, and you want to take them down for good. But when you come to the realization that Shinra isn't the main threat here, and there's an entirely new threat that seeks to destroy the planet, all things change. Once was a game about taking down a big corporation to stop their tyranny and save the city, now becomes a full-fledged adventure, one that requires you to set off into the vast open world and discover new secrets, new continents, new characters, and many other heartbreaking or groundbreaking experiences that leave you filled with so much emotion that the characters themselves, even though they can't talk, feel a part of you and make you feel like you're living their experiences with them as they go through them. This is the beauty that is Final Fantasy VII to me. It's the one game that, till this day, just hearing certain parts of the soundtrack like Ahead on Our Way can immediately thrust back memories into my mind, and I can recall exactly what I was doing in the game my first time experiencing that song or area. Whether I was on my way to see Chocobo Bill and have a fun little dance with Chocobos for some materia, making my trek back towards Calm and learning the full backstory of Cloud, and his history with the evil Sephiroth, being thrown in a desert prison and finding out the true reason Barrett has a gun on his arm, experiencing the magnificence of the gold saucer and its date mechanic, and accidentally ending up on a date with Barrett instead of my waifu Tifa. There's just so much that happens over the course of 3 discs that took my emotions from happy to angry to sad. One minute I'm laughing at how silly it is to see Turk members Reno and Root acting like they're school kids and asking each other, who do you like? It's like elementary school or something. And then another example of me just being so damn mad at the betrayal by Kate Sith and just thinking, ugh, I want to strangle this damn puppet so dang much for what he did. The story can definitely get confusing. I won't lie and say it doesn't get a little bit convoluted, but between the vast world that feels alive, with secrets like breeding chocobos so you're able to find the Knights of the Round Summon, using and mixing materia together to create better magic attacks and other spells, completing specific objectives like playing a tune on Tifa's piano, and completing rounds of endurance fights for Cloud at Gold Saucer to obtain their special limit break attacks, make searching out every secret a journey in itself. Final Fantasy VII, even till this day, and after all these years later, still gives me emotions that no other game has been able to ever since, and many people feel the same way. This is why with the news of it finally being remade, which we've actually wanted for a long time, actually became a reality, we got a little nervous. Square-Enix up to this point has been a company that's hit or miss. Final Fantasy XII, while overall has a pretty bad name, recently people have started to soften up their opinions on it. Then came the Final Fantasy XIII series with its 2 sequels that spawned more controversy, more negative than positive, a failed first launch of Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, which I was actually a part of, And then the long wait for Final Fantasy XV, which was a step in the right direction, but still wasn't up to the high quality we've known Square Enix to achieve. We were worried that we were going to get the modern era of Square Enix, and not the classic, hit after hit company of Square that gave us timeless classics. But here we are now, a year out from the release of the game on PS4, and it was mostly met with overwhelming positive reviews and praise. Well, minus a certain aspect that has fans divided still, even me. The original PS4 version was bogged down by several issues such as texture problems, frame rate, load times, and other stuff, but with Intergrade, things were supposed to change. But did they? Only one way to find out. Let's go! Gameplay. As you start your journey, you're thrusted into the game's opening cinematic that has Cloud doing his classic flippin' hero landing in front of the train at Mako Reactor 1. The camera then does a smooth spin around Cloud, and bam! You're into the game in one smooth transition. That scene you just thought was a traditional cinematic? That was all in-game, and there's no smoke and mirrors here. The first time I played this scene, I was absolutely floored for two reasons. For one, I was amazed that this was actually in-game and not a cutscene, and on the other hand, I couldn't believe I'm actually playing a remake of Final Fantasy VII. It was surreal. But is it really a remake though? Is it really? At least in the technical term? Well, you'll just have to wait to see and find out the answer to that the further I get along with this review. Once you're off and running, this is where the first taste of combat comes into play, and the first mission basically becomes your opening tutorial, albeit a little less intrusive one than you're traditionally accustomed to. Gone are the traditional JRPG turn-based mechanics, and instead it's become more hack-and-slash based in what feels like an evolution of the combat system from Final Fantasy XV. Your first encounter allows you to play around with your normal attacks using the square button in operator mode, while pressing triangle brings you into Punisher mode that allows you to use more powerful sword swipes and offers a chance for you to counterattack if you time switching to Punisher mode at the right moment. If timed just right, you'll counter your enemy's attack and fill up the damage on not just their HP bar, but their stun meter too. Stun meter? The heck is that? Well, stun meter acts as a way to disorient your opponent by momentarily stunning them when they're in this state. And when they're in this state, they're more vulnerable to attacks by you and your party. Now is the time to unleash all your most powerful attacks when your foes are incapacitated. As you make it past the first area, it is here where you can truly see the level of care and love that the developers took with each individual character. In the original Final Fantasy VII, the character Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie are side characters and loyal members of Team Avalanche along with Barret and Tifa. They don't have many lines in the original and are really only in the first few hours of the game, and that's it. We never really learn much about them as far as their backstories, due to their heartbreaking demise at the fall of the Sector 7 plate, but that changes with the fully voiced version of their characters here in the remake. Wedge is a fun-loving guy who is always trying to make a difference any way he can. Jessie is spunky, hyper, and extremely thirsty for Cloud. I'm talking about someone who has been walking in the Sahara Desert for 3 days without water type of thirsty. Sheesh girl, calm down. She flirted with Cloud a bit in the original FF7, but in this game, it's amped up to an 11. Biggs, who looks like Charlie Sheen from Hot Shots, out of everyone in the group of Avalanche, tends to be more serious and thinks things through and worries about the what-ifs, so he always has a plan in case something goes south. This is where the game completely has a one-up against the original, the character development. As you run through the Mako reactor, the banter between Barret and Cloud is pure gold, and their personalities are nailed to a T. Cloud is sarcastic and a huge jerk. He's only there for his paycheck and doesn't give a crap about Avalanche or saving the planet, but Barret is trying to save the planet and thinks Cloud being an ex-soldier for Shinra is suspicious. So, of course, like all men do, they try to out-alpha male each other at every point they can. Whether it be Cloud quipping with attitude, telling Barret to get help for believing he can hear the planet cry in pain, or Barret telling Cloud he'll basically kill him if he sees one sign of him being a backstabber. The best thing about it, the dialogue spoken not only between Cloud and Barret, but with Wedge, Biggs, Jessie, Tifa, Aerith, etc., all feel like natural conversations, with nothing being forced or overly cringe, like the Kingdom Hearts series or previous FF titles. All voice actors and actresses are amazing in this game.
One more thing.
Whoa! Stop it! What in the hell are you trying to...
Easy, you'll make us fall.
Not if you do first!
Maybe you're not okay. Ah, he lives. Finally awake, are we?
You're...
Aerith. It's Aerith. And you are?
God damn it! God damn you! God damn you all! Marlene. Marlene.
When you're finally ready to plant the bomb at the Mako reactor in order to destroy it, it's time for your first major boss battle against a big mechanized scorpion, one in which you will learn about how to use multiple party members and their special abilities. Remember what I said about bye-bye turn-based system? Well, that was half right. Square-Enix knew that not all people like hack-and-slash titles, and that it could potentially alienate past longtime fans. So, enter Tactical Mode. During a battle, you're able to press X and enter Tactical Mode. In this mode, you'll be able to slow down time and pick your attacks at your own pace, just like a traditional turn-based game, as well as press R2 and L2 to switch between characters to give them commands that range from abilities, spells, items, or their special attack named Limit Breaks that can be used when taking enough damage for a one-all-powerful attack. Switching between playable characters also works seamlessly by pressing left or right on the D-pad to immediately switch to your character of choice. If an enemy is high up where someone like Cloud can't reach, it is then advisable to switch to Barret so that he may utilize his gun attacks like Focus Shot or Maximum Fury. It's imperative that you switch characters as often as possible, because if you stay in one character too long, you gain enemy aggro and they will specifically attack that character, so switch it up as often as possible. This boss was a freaking pushover in the original game, but here it's a grand and epic event that has your adrenaline pumping as you're piecing together the right technique to beat him, all while hearing Cloud and Barret talk crap about each other back and forth while they're trying to figure out just what the heck they have to do. When the mech is finally slain, you and Barret must plant the bomb and get out of the reactor as quickly as possible. After you make it out in a slick and fancy style, you see the damage your blast has caused. Thousands are without power, houses burning, and you realize to get revenge on Shinra, you've devastated the lives of innocent civilians. Who's in the wrong? Is it you, or is it in Shinra? The game makes you think on this a lot. Walking around after the explosion, you feel super bad, even though you know Shinra is the one that caused this. The bomb you had planted, a low-level explosive that was used by Jesse, is not one that could do this amount of damage. So what happened? Shinra helped detonate the bomb on a grander scale so that they could make use of propaganda and brand Avalanche as traitorous terrorists who were working with Midgar's adversaries, the Wu Tai. Their whole plan is to gain sympathy by branding Shinra as the victim, so that people rally around them and they can continue the war with Wu Tai for all that power and gil. Man, you hated them in the original, but good lord, you hated them even more in Remake. You want to go full Liam Neeson on them. Being able to walk around the burning and destroyed areas of the sector for the first time, which you didn't get to do much in the original, is heartbreaking. People can't get in touch with relatives. People wondering how they are getting home. You get to see and feel the damage you have done to these poor people's lives. But before you get too upset, we finally get our first few deviations in the story that is completely different from the original game, in the form of Sephiroth's return. In the original title, Sephiroth is more of a myth or legend. It's a long and mysterious build-up to find out just what he's all about, and it's done beautifully. But here in Remake, he's like, "Hey guys, what's up? Shall I give you despair?" and shows up at the beginning of the game. Cloud is confused as all hell, because he literally killed this man in Nibelheim a few years ago, and there's no way he can be back. But here he is. After some really twisted mind games by Sephiroth, where he shows Cloud his burning village and tells him how he killed Cloud's mom, Cloud snaps out of his would-be hallucination and convinces himself that it wasn't real. But oh god, here we go. This is where I really started getting worried. Now is the time you finally meet Aerith, a bubbly flower girl from the slums, but something is wrong. She's swatting away at the air, but in her panic she grabs you, and you now see what she is so afraid of. Ghost-like figures that look just like Dementors from Harry frickin' Potter. I'm serious. Design could have been better, bucko. Avada Kedavra, just die! These ghosts, they're known as Whispers, the arbitrators of fate. Oh no. Oh boy. Here we go. I'll hold off on my rant for now. As you progress through the story, you'll realize that for the most part, the game follows the original title storyline pretty closely, albeit more fleshed out with the characters and side quests to do. Chapters 1 to 5 cover all your missions relating to Avalanche, such as the Mako reactor bombing or brand new elements, like helping Jessie steal from her coma-induced dad while she, Biggs, and Wedge eat pizza. No, I'm not joking. This is literally what happens. Her mom's pizza prob sucked though, and that's the real reason he's in a coma. Chapter 1 to 5 also introduces a brand new soldier named Rosh, who is loud and obnoxious and just wants to fight for fun, and I friggin' love him. He never came off as evil, just someone who liked to be challenged, and the bike mission to take him down was a blast to play. As I stated in my semi-review of the PS4 version, the best aspects of this game are from the scenes that were in the original game, but now completely more in depth, like Cloud and Tifa's promise scene in their hometown, Barrett's adorable relationship with his daughter Marlene, Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge all getting their own character development, making you grow to love them even more, which makes it that much more traumatizing when they meet their ends. You knew it was coming because it happened in the original, but now that they all have huge personalities and you spend hours more with them, it's such a damn gut punch watching Biggs and Jessie meet their fate. Ugly face cry time now, folks. The game starts off very strong with chapters 1 to 5, but chapters 6 and 7 is where it hits a snail pace with a lot of filler. These are definitely the missions where they said, "This game is too short, we need something to fill the time with, add these." This happens quite a few times too, even besides those chapters. Like with Chapter 10 sewers that seem to go on forever. Chapter 14 where you go back to the sewers again for a time waster of a mission that I could not stand at all. Leslie, I hate you. Pure game padding. Chapter 16 and 17 is also a mixed bag of really awesome elements, like meeting Doggo friend Nanaki, most notably referred to as Red 13, and fighting against a remnant of Genova, one of the main reasons behind everyone's problems, and good lord is this fight good. Fighting can get pretty intense, and holy crap, as soon as the remix of the classic Genova theme starts playing, pure and utter musical bliss to my ears. So damn good.
You okay?
You're up. Here goes.
Taking over. That's that.
Thanks for coming to help.
But while those elements are fun, most of Chapter 17 ends up being pull this lever, walk, pull this lever, walk. And it goes on way too long, and every playthrough it bores me to tears. Easily my favorite chapter in the game is hands down Chapter 9. Going through this chapter and seeing Wall Market fully realized from the original game is a sight to see. Wall Market is basically a more sleazier version of Las Vegas. It has gambling, street thugs, brothels, and even an underground fighting ring, where you and Aerith must team up together in order to win the cash prize and be allowed to enter Don Corneo's mansion to save Tifa. This whole tournament is like one big game show. A game show with death, that is. It all houses one of the most intriguing boss fights in the game, too. Yes, there's a pun that's intended here, because you literally fight a house. Hell House. Once was a random, casual boss fight in the original game, but now full-fledged spectacle. It's both the most WTF moment of the game, but also one of the best. You also get to have a dancing minigame against Honeybee Inn's Andrea, and I don't think I've laughed so hard at a game in a long time. Cloud is always so serious and stoic, but here he is, getting serious and dancing his heart out to win the favor of Andrea to be turned into a woman? That's right, the only way you can get entry into Don Corneo's mansion is to be a woman. So by impressing Andrea, you get a makeover to dress Cloud up as a girl and infiltrate the mansion along with Aerith to save Tifa. This scene was done to perfection and blows the original game's version of Honeybee Inn out of the water, no contest. But that's enough talk about chapters I like. I want to speak briefly about other mechanics in the game that relates to gameplay and will be key in your success and progression. This has to do with skill trees and materia. As you level up your character, regardless of who it is, you will gain ability points. These ability points are able to be used on characters' weapons that can raise the stats of your HP, MP, attack, extra materia slots, and many other choices. This is the case for every single weapon in the game. That's 24 different weapons, each with their own skill tree, and each adding an additional ability to them as you master them. Focus Thrust for Buster Sword, Maximum Fury with Big Bertha, True Strike with Purple Pain, ATP Ward with Reinforced Staff. These are just some of the abilities gained, and in order to gain these new skills, you must use the weapon over and over till you get enough points to max them out completely. It's a tad repetitive, but it's so worth doing it because once you max out all weapons, you're able to use every single weapon skill you've learned with any weapon of your choosing. So now all you have to do is map your attacks to your controller via battle settings, and use them in fast succession for a more hectic combat pace. Well, that's if you want to, of course. You can still play tactical mode and do everything manually. That's what I do. Materia system is also going to be huge to use. Much like the original game, Materia is equipped to add certain abilities or spells for the player, offensive and defensive. These are able to be equipped to your weapons and accessories you wear and can not only give you a boost in defense, but HP as well. Strategizing what to equip people with is key. For a character like Aerith, who acts like your white mage, it's best to equip her with materia such as Magicka, which raises her magic power, healing materia to cast healing spells, and mix in blue materia called Magnify. Why do that? Well, if you link Magnify and healing together, instead of healing one person at a time, it will instead heal your entire party. The same works for her offensive spells as well. Use Magnify and Fire together, and chain a link of fire attacks that hits every enemy. It's damn cool. Same works for anyone else too. Barret is a tank. Equip him with HP up, give Cloud and Tifa first strike materia, and allow them to get a huge boost of ATB at the beginning of any fight to take the advantage in your battles, cause each ability you use drains 1 or more ATB bars. Now, I've been pretty upbeat about this game, right? And for good reason. There's a ton to love about this game. So much in fact that I can't name it all. But now comes my turn to rant on the stuff that confused me or even angered me. Remember when I talked about the whispers earlier? Well, we're back to that now. This is easily one of the worst aspects of the game to me. Every time you move through the game and push the story along, they show up to keep you from something interesting. They're not in the original, so adding them here came off as if Nomura put in another one of his M. Night, what a twist moments. In a nutshell, their job is to make sure fate and course of history is not changed at all. They want things to proceed exactly as they did in the original FF game's story, beat for beat, and do everything they can to stop you from trying to deviate from that goal. You learn of their ultimate goal towards the end of the game, when speaking to Red 13 and Aerith. You're on a set path, no way off of it. The only way to change your future of the original FF7 game, which got pretty grim, is to defeat them and change history forever. But here's where I have a few other gripes. From chapter 8 to 16, Aerith is her normal, happy, bubbly self, then out of nowhere, she has a complete character change and she's all-knowing, all-powerful sage type of character that knows everything out of nowhere. I did not like this, as it felt way too sudden, but I have my theory as to why this is. But if I tell you, it might open up the rabbit hole. Nah, screw it. I don't believe she's the Aerith of this timeline, or perhaps another event took place which caused her to see into the future of things that are going to happen, which you will find out shortly in Chapter 18. Oh man, Chapter 18. It's like playing an entirely new game. Everything you witnessed in the regular game seems sort of grounded. Characters struggle, occasionally pull off cool moves, but now they're jumping like anime ninjas, slicing through literal buildings and soaring through the sky. This scene is nearly an identical ripoff to an ending scene of the movie Advent Children. Sephiroth throwing a building, check. Cloud slicing through it, check. Barret flying away from an impact with nearly the same exact animation as the movie, check. It's all a total mind scramble that kind of in a way makes you feel like they betrayed you. You were told that this was going to stay true to the original game, but this strays heavily from that promise. It's like a slap in the face. That is until you realize, oh my god, it was right there in front of us the whole time. Final Fantasy VII Remake is literal. It's the story of being remade, not the game being remade. Yes, if you haven't guessed by now, FF7 Remake is an actual sequel title. Now with branching off timelines where Zack Fair lives instead of dies. Zack's death serves as a catalyst for all the events of the original FF7 to take place. Now that he lived, none of that happens in that timeline. Everything changes. I'm still annoyed by the whispers though, don't get me wrong. But I've always wanted a sequel to FF7 in actual game form, and now I got it! Just at the expense of the original game's story. Conflicted for sure, because this can either go the Kingdom Hearts route of a mess of a story or become something amazing. There's definitely big plans coming ahead, with more hints coming in Yuffie Intermission DLC, which I'll be covering very soon and giving my theories on just where we're heading, such as, I think the Sephiroth in this game is actually the Sephiroth from the timeline of Advent Children. Ooh! So, stay tuned! Extra stuff. After you've beaten the game, there's still much more to do. Find the ween little boy named Chadley, and take on VR missions that allow you to fight against summon monsters like Shiva, Ifrit, Leviathan, and a fat boy Chocobo, or take on the Shinra VR missions on normal mode and hard mode to get extra prizes, like an accessory that starts you off every battle with a limit break. You're also free to play any chapter to go back and finish all the side quests you want to for extra story arcs, like what dress Tifa will wear, what dress Aerith wears, dialogue outside Aerith's house, etc. Beating the game on hard mode also gives you books for each character that awards AP to max everything out. Definitely worth it. I did every single thing possible during my PS4 playthrough, including beating the hardest challenge in the game, which made you fight 5 enemies in a row on 1 health bar. All the summons, followed by the secret boss. But it was so worth it. Even after doing all this, I still couldn't stop playing, clocking in with a total of 142 hours, now over 160 hours when combined with Intergrade. You won't get bored anytime soon. There's also tons to unpack as far as references go. Longtime fans will get many of them, like Root having a secret crush on Tifa. In the original, he likes her, and this carries over in Remake. During a scene of the Sector 7 platefall, his partner Reno is about to shoot her with her helicopter, but he pulls the control stick to make him miss, and Reno is just like, "What the heck, bro?" And Rude responds with the, hand slipped. Fans of the original got this reference, and it's the small details that made it amazing. Chapter 4 sees you get a reference to the Gold Saucer play scene from the original game when you find a letter written by Jessie telling her parents that she got into a play as a lead character, the princess at Gold Saucer. In Shinra HQ, you find hints at the long-running fan theory that Final Fantasy X is actually a prequel to Final Fantasy VII, when you find a picture with a man who looks like Shinra from Final Fantasy X-2, who was all about using energy in the name of Spira, much like the Shinra company of Gaia does now. Those are just some of the references for fans to catch, and I didn't even mention the console Easter egg from Crisis Core. Overall, when it's all said and done, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade manages to do what I didn't think was possible. It actually took elements from the original game and made them even better this time around. Amazing character development, smooth and engaging combat that feels like a better version of Final Fantasy XV, deep combat and upgrade system that allows you to mix and match materia and have freedom of using any weapon you want based off your favorite abilities, gorgeous music that gives me goosebumps every time I hear it, reimagined Midgar that immerses you in its atmosphere, and with Intergrade here, improved performance, better texturing, smoother frame rate, and they fixed the infamous door. Game of the Year. Sure, I had my gripes about some of the pacing issues with filler and game padding, the whispers being annoying, characters' personalities just changing randomly, but overall, I genuinely love this game to pieces, and I can officially say childhood not ruined. So with this very long build-up, it's a no-brainer if you have a PS4 or PS5. My verdict is clear. Cayman Chick says bye now.
But I did bring these, Wutai's famous Dachau beans. Eat up. And here you go.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission is an action-adventure game that spans over 2 chapters, giving you a deeper look into the character named Yuffie. Taking the high-octane action of Final Fantasy VII Remake, Square-Enix attempts to give us the story of what was happening during the time of Cloud and his crew's adventure, only this time from the perspective of the young and loud female ninja from the Wutai, Yuffie. But does this DLC do a good job at that, or does it just feel like a cash grab to continue to ride the FF7 cash cow train? Only one way to find out, so on to it! Play as Wutai elite ninja Yuffie as she infiltrates Midgar and conspires with Avalanche HQ to steal the ultimate materia from the Shinra Electric Power Company. In what starts out as a simple enough mission, it soon turns into something much more dark and devastating. Joined by her partner in crime Sonon, both he and Yuffie begin their mission to show Shinra that the Wu-Tai and Avalanche are not to be trifled with, but they may have bit off more than they can chew. Gameplay. The adventure of Yuffie and Sonon takes place during the events of the Mako Reactor 5 bombing that saw Cloud, Tifa, and Barret attempt to destroy another reactor, just like they did to Mako Reactor 1. While Yuffie has just arrived in Midgar, Cloud has already fallen down into Aerith's church, and Tifa and Barret are returning empty-handed without him. If you're looking for a deep, long-reaching story here with this DLC, then I think you may be a tad disappointed, since Intermission is more about how Yuffie plays and controls over anything else, at least at first. But that's not to say there's no story to be had. That couldn't be further from the truth. The narrative of her first arriving to Midgar and walking the same steps of the heroes of Final Fantasy VII Remake actually feels a bit surreal. When you first play FF7 Remake, your perspective was always from the viewpoint of Cloud's strife. But now here in Intermission, you're looking from the outside in on those events. And it's actually pretty crazy walking through the familiar streets of the slums and seeing things from a totally new vantage point, and noticing characters from the game standing around and talking to each other, like Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, and being able to interact with them as someone not from the main cast is actually really cool. Although Jessie is a bit of an ass.
Thing, kid. But do you mind? I'm not exactly in the mood. Not in the mood. Go bug literally anyone else.
Seriously, what the heck, Jessie? That was rude. But yeah, it reminded me of how I geeked out the first time I played Dragon Ball Xenoverse and had my created character interact with Goku and the other characters. It felt like I was at Disneyland or something. But you want to know how this game actually plays and how it holds up next to the main game, isn't that right? Well, you're going to love to know that it actually has better combat than in FF7 Remake, at least in my opinion. The core mechanics in Intermission are the same as they use in the base game of Remake for the most part, but with a much faster paced style and certain changes. Square still being your melee attack, pressing X to enter tactical mode and slow down time so that you can strategize what ability or spell to use next, upgrading weapon skill trees using AP points that you gain from battles in order to strengthen your character with special attributes that gain you higher HP, higher MP, additional materia slots, debris that allows you to mug opponents in order to steal items off of them and even attack power. Much like in Remake, each character has multiple weapons to unlock and find, as well as upgrade however you wish to. Materia here in this title also remains unchanged. Find materia spread out through each area or buy some from the shop. However you acquire it, you will be able to equip it to the needs of yourself as Yuffie or Sonon. But this is where we come to a bit of a downside. Not a big one, but still a little bit of a downer. Previously, you were able to control multiple characters at once, up to 3 to be exact. But now here in Intermission, it's cut down to just one playable character, Yuffie herself. Sonon here in Intermission acts more as a companion character, in the sense that he's not playable, but he can still be given commands by pressing R2. And thankfully, for all our sakes, his AI control is pretty competent, and he's actually a big helper rather than a pain in the neck, unlike some other games. Praise be to Yevon for that. Wait, that's the wrong game. Oops! I think the main takeaway from this combat style is actually the speed itself, thanks to the upgrade this game now has on the PlayStation 5. Now running at a smooth 60 FPS, all movements feel lightning quick, buttery smooth, and makes using her attack combinations that much more enjoyable. Using your weapon of the 4-point shuriken can feel like a bit of a strategy minigame if you treat it as such. For instance, certain enemies will be weak to specific elements such as fire, lightning, wind, etc. But using the weapon's elemental ninjutsu, you're able to switch to an attack element that the enemy is weak to, and hit it with a barrage of attacks from medium and long-range distances. This strategy also works by pressing triangle and throwing your giant shuriken long distances, and as soon as it makes contact with an enemy, hastily spam your square button to unleash various amounts of damage in quick succession. This will raise your ATB meter up extremely fast, which allows you to chain combination attacks like Art of War that unleashes a blistering melee attack to overwhelm your opponent, Windstorm, which gusts a large tornado of wind, and Elemental Jutsu. All of these in cooperation with each other can make combat feel so fast-paced, you just might disorient yourself. It feels so damn good. The great thing about this upgrade to the combat is that it actually shows the developers listen to us. We had gripes about the aerial combat not being up to par, considering a lot of enemies were flying monsters in Remake, and jumping up in that game just feels extremely clunky. But here, it feels so smooth and natural. We had also wished that characters would be able to do combo attacks that complemented each other's abilities. But sadly, this wasn't the case in Remake. Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and Aerith were not able to do attacks in conjunction with each other. But now in Intermission, when both you and Sonon have a space on your ATB slot filled, by pressing L2, you're able to charge a synchronization sequence that allows you to select Synergized Art of War and Synergized Windstorm. Both attacks in which Sonon actually participates in the attack with you, and you both do a double team move. Now that's what I'm talking about. I absolutely loved it. Please make this a main focal point in Remake Part 2. I need more of it in my life. But we'll just have to wait and see if that request actually becomes materialized. Okay, sorry. That's just about it for the combat, really. Linkable materia to raise magic and other stats, AP to bolster weapons, double-team cooperation attacks for faster and more intuitive combat. It seems like more of the same from the last game, but with the improvements to its frame rate, for fast gameplay, and an amazing fight style for Yuffie. Sometimes less is more. There are just enough tweaks and changes that make an already badass combat system even more addicting in itself. Now, I know you're wondering about what I said earlier about how there's not really any major story. Well, that's both a yes and no. You won't have a grand epic story like Remake, as that game ran 18 chapters, and this one only runs 2. Overall, this game is going to take about 4 to 10 hours to beat, depending on the content you complete in it, and that may seem like very little. However, if you are a fan of getting to know characters, small details that make up the world and Easter eggs of not only events that occurred in Remake, but teases of what's to come in Part 2 of the game's remake, which I will dive into at the end of this review, then you will be pleasantly surprised. What Remake got right was the characters' interactions and the small details that showed the developers' love and affection towards this franchise, and they show the same amount of detail in Intermission as well, including keeping its continuity of Remake intact. For instance, as you run about the slums, if you try to enter Tifa's bar, the whispers blow you away. Why is this? Well, this is because in the original FF7 timeline, Yuffie did not meet the game till way later in the journey. You aren't supposed to meet them yet, and doing so now would completely change the course of history, which is what the whispers are trying to prevent. It's nothing big, but it's the subtle things that make me excited to see the devs thinking that far ahead. Yuffie herself is also bursting with life and energy. In the original FF7, she's a bit brash and even hyper at times, and thinks very highly of herself. Here in Intermission, she's roughly the same, a loud and over-the-top teenager who's ready to face any challenge and beat up everyone in her way. Her enthusiasm and joyful attitude is pretty infectious, and it made me smile a lot while playing. One of the funniest ongoing gags in the game is her handing out Wutai's world-famous Dachau beans. Except they're literally rock hard and nearly break everyone's jaw, just like the X-ray kills in Mortal Kombat. She's like, man, everyone is a wuss! The only person who can even eat them besides Yuffie is her new buddy Sonon, who she becomes very close to by the end of the game, like brother and sister. But once again, the developers knew we were going to get attached to these characters, just like we did for Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie. And what do they do to us? They make us feel the pain and suffering of both Yuffie and Sonon. Sonon is still getting over the trauma of his sister that was killed in front of him by Shinra, and now he wants revenge, and ends up sacrificing himself to save the life of Yuffie, who he now considers to be his sister. He will not let the same fate come for her. See folks, this is why you don't go deep ground with Nero and Weiss around. Bad things happen. Just look at how Dirge of Cerberus turned out. Big goof. But back on topic, this causes Yuffie to absolutely lose it and completely break down crying. As she's running away from Shinra HQ, still devastated at seeing her friend die, she arrives just in time to see the Sector 7 plate collapse down to thousands of people below. Witnessing the fire and the death, after what she just went through, she completely breaks down in a sorrowful, heartbreaking scream of pain. Good lord, this hits hard. The voice actress was so damn good that you really felt like she was feeling the same pain as the character. I was floored, and I'll admit it, I got teary-eyed, and it made me feel so damn bad for Yuffie. Her carefree spunk in that instance, now gone. Cut to some time later, and she's now off solo venturing into the world, and eventually will meet Cloud and crew on her next journey. Extra stuff. When you're done completing the main game story, you can take part in some pretty fun stuff, such as playing games of Fort Condor with Roush, the crazy soldier from Remake that fought Cloud, or the Shinra manager that was scared of Barret. Fort Condor is an attack and defend type of minigame that is a nice little throwback to the mission you take on in the original FF7, where you defend the Condor on top of Fort Condor from getting attacked. It's an amusing little game, and kind of addicting too. You're also able to go around the slums and find happy turtle flyers for extra goodies, and even complete VR missions once again for Chadley, where you fight Rama and gain the materia to summon him. So much to do after you're done. 10 hours will definitely not be enough playtime for this game, I guarantee it. Hell, even just standing around and listening to the music is fun. Where are we heading next? Okay, I was going to end the review there, but my brain since beating this game has been all over the place. I need somewhere to vent, and this is where it's going to be. The ending of this game shows our main group of Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Red 13, and Barret on their way to Calm after they left Midgar at the end of Chapter 18. My opinion here is that Remake Part 2 is going to immediately pick up from Cloud's backstory from the original FF7, where he tells the gang his entire backstory of him and Sephiroth. However, I think it's going to jump straight into the action, with showing Cloud and Sephiroth in the truck preparing for their mission, or as they arrive in Cloud's hometown, Nibelheim. I feel this would be the best route, not only to give new players a glimpse of the history us longtime fans know about already, but it can also act as a tutorial to learn any new combat mechanics and techniques they wish to implement in this new installment as well. But the biggest thing here is that the cutscene takes place after their trudge towards Calm. We're greeted to a shot of Aerith's church, and who do we see? Zack Fair! He's alive and made it back to Aerith's church to see her. Both Zack and Aerith dated in the events of Crisis Core, and he's been gone around 5 years. In the original timeline, he dies and never makes it back to her, which was so painful to watch. But now in this time, he's alive. Finally, he's able to see her once more. So now he's pacing, wondering what he's going to say to her, and decides, screw it, I'm Zack Fair, I'll just be me. So excitedly, he pulls open the door and exclaims, I'm back! Only to find a church full of devastated civilians and crying women and children. He's shocked and utters out, Aerith? As the music drains out. On the surface, this might just look like, oh, she's just out with Cloud and company on their adventure. But that's where you're wrong. I feel something more traumatic has happened here. Aerith is not out on an adventure with Cloud, because in the timeline where she meets Cloud and the gang, Zack died and gave his hopes and dreams to Cloud, who then became a merc and kicked off the events of the original FF7. Without Zack's death, Cloud never became that person, and those events never happen. So where is she? My opinion, Aerith in this timeline is now dead. That's right, it's the good old butterfly effect. By defeating the Whispers, aka plot ghosts, they changed multiple timelines. The only thing keeping Aerith alive, which you see in Remake, are the plot ghosts, who save her many times from death due to it not being her fate yet. But now with the plot ghosts being defeated, they no longer exist. And back in the Zack Lives timeline, there are no plot ghosts to prevent her death. Save Aerith in one timeline, cause and effect as she's dead in another. Mind blown. Symbolism is also very strong in showing this, with the sad Aerith theme playing in her church, as well as the wilted flowers, which they never wilt as long as she's around and alive, but now they're dead or near death. How did she die if she did die? I'm not entirely sure yet. It wasn't by the Sector 7 platefall, since that has yet to take place. Guess we'll have to wait and see to find out, but it's definitely got me super excited about where we're going next. Overall, at the end of the day, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission offers up more questions than answers to where we're going next. But the one thing we truly do know is that the gameplay is as addicting as ever. Being able to use combination attacks with party members, or chain together multiple attacks with synergy as you throw your shuriken and use elemental jutsu for a juggling attack for a decent amount of damage, it never gets old. Sure, I wish the game could have been a little bit longer. Maybe some more side quests to do that take you around more areas of the slums, or giving us a playable second character, but overall those are just small gripes in the grand scheme of things, and I can't really think of anything I can say I legit hated or disliked about this DLC, other than the fact that they brought in Nero, Wise, and Deep Ground. Ugh, Dirge of Cerberus. Man, please don't make them a mainstay. They were the lowest parts of the compilation of the FF7 series, but I will embrace and play it no matter what, so it's whatever, Square Bear. So with all my wacky theories and thoughts out of the way, I guess you can say my verdict here is clear. Game & Chick says bye now.
Go, do kiwi dance up to scream and hold me. Can we use a little soup though? We will be inside you.
Fantasy VII Rebirth is the long-awaited, anticipated sequel to the previous title of Remake, and it is developed and published by Square-Enix. With the realization that this game is finally exploring venues and characters from the original game that weren't present in Remake, fans have been anxiously waiting to see if it's done with the proper respect and care. So does the title live up to the original title's charm, or did they trip at the finish line? Only one way to find out, so let's go! Story. Cloud Strife and his companions set out in the vast world in search of Sephiroth to attempt to save the world from whatever he has planned. But with the further discoveries that unfold, more mysteries remain. The journey to save the planet has only just begun. Gameplay. It has been a very long 4 years since Remake's release in 2020. Now here we are in 2024, and the continued adventures of Cloud and his buddies continue on in an even bigger and broader scale than even I was expecting, especially with the way Remake had ended. Which, if you were around at the time of my Remake review, you'd know that I was not a big fan of the way things went at the end of Remake, and that it felt like some of the worst fanfiction I've ever seen. Sure, it was cool looking and on such a scale of epicness that it looked base and played great, but it was such a departure from how the rest of the game unfolded. So much, in fact, that it felt like an entirely different game itself and basically used the worst elements possible from both Advent Children and Kingdom Hearts. Like, yikes! Needless to say, I was a bit triggered. Not as much as my annoyance for things like the plot ghosts, aka Whispers, who are an abomination and I hate the fact that they exist. So much that I would do a blood sacrifice during the third blood moon of the 10th year in a cemetery during the winter solstice in Bohemian Grove if that's what it took to get rid of them in these games. Noticed how I said games and not game. Yup, that's right. They're back again and even worse than ever before. And even more idiotic and mind-numbing than you thought was possible. It's even worse than being dead tired, getting in bed. It's nice and cold, so you fall asleep comfy and cozy, and then get woken up at 3 in the morning because you have to pee, which wakes you up to the point that you can't get to sleep properly again, and yes, they're worse than that. Damn pee ghosts. But enough about the overly negative stuff. We'll definitely have more negatives to cover the further I get in this review, but for the most part, it will be rather positive. With the latest entry of Rebirth, the game itself faces an uphill battle to not only live up to the quality that brought us Remake and the retelling of those iconic scenes, but also figure out a way to expand the world and lore itself by taking us to places like Calm, Nibelheim, Coral, Gold Saucer, Mithril Mines, and many other places from the original game that gave each of us special memories that have endured in our brains for decades. Like remembering the first time you arrive at Chocobo Bill's farm and hearing the silly sounding music and dancing chocobos, or screaming in panic as you try to cross the swamp, but being stopped in your tracks due to the gigantic Midgard-Sormer serpent coming to make you its next meal. While we were excited to relive these moments, we were confused as to how it would be done. Square made Remake in Midgar only. While it was a very good game, it was basic and linear in the design department. But it did give us one of the best characters to ever grace the series. The Door. I love you, Door. So if they had to put one game in Midgar only, how the hell were they going to do these areas too? It would take forever, right? Oh, baby Koopa, was I ever wrong. Through my trek of Rebirth, in which I put in over 80 hours of gameplay into it as of this time, with definitely way more to come so that I can get the eventual platinum trophy for the game that I got in Remake. From the start, I was immediately floored from the get-go, with seeing the new and reimagined Calm with my eyes for the very first time. My literal first thoughts were mixed between wow and holy shit, with the latter of the two being a recurring theme throughout my playthrough. The city was robust, it was alive, hundreds of NPCs, all with their own unique dialogue and animations and things to say, reacting to your movements, playing music or selling food, and even having a full-on concert in one of their showrooms, in which this random dude is performing in the hopes of making a name for himself. I feel like this is the same guy from Midgar Wall Market in the first game that sang karaoke in the bar. I'm pretty sure this is him, but regardless, these songs are pretty damn good. I literally sat and listened to him perform every song he had in his arsenal, and I was not disappointed. Please, all local radio stations, take the garbage that's blasted over the airwaves nowadays and put this guy from the game on. I'm begging you. absolute spectacle, and every detail down to the walls, roofs, aesthetics were just simply fantastic. It was at this moment, doing side quests for characters like climbing tower with Aerith, building bonds with Tifa and Red to prep for my eventual gold saucer date, because you know I gotta get my date with Tifa, right? There's no question. But it was that moment, as wowed as I had been, I realized that I still hadn't left the town yet, and I again was not prepared for what I was about to experience. A fully traversable, open world with seamless travel. Well, mostly. When you first step out of Calm into the grasslands, you're immediately hit with the scope of just how large the area of the grasslands is just by itself. It's absolutely massive, and it makes you a bit confused as well. Why confused? Well, now in this large expanded world, you have to figure out just what the hell you want to do with your life now that you're finally here. So with this new open world, your first questions probably are, what do you do in the open world, and is the world empty? The answer to these questions are a lot, and yes and no. It's hard to describe really, but I'll attempt to. When you play and advance the story in the game, you will come across various regions that are open world or rather big open areas that give you the illusion that it's an open world, with barriers like cliffs to cut off your path from going to a certain area, either too soon or at all, as well as branches and stuff that hinder your progression until certain requirements are met, like acquiring the buggy after your stint in the Gold Saucer, and driving over what blocked you, or simply finding the right key for a side quest that unlocks the door leading to a brand new area to traverse. This level of thought and exploration extends to multiple large regions such as the Grasslands, where you can visit Chocobo Bill's farm from the original game, participate in a Chocobo tutorial race, buy cute gear for your Chocobo, find a man in a house and challenge him to a game of Queen's Blood to take the Chocobo Moogle card he has, fight the Do-Recompense punk from Remake, who remember that you and Aerith kicked the crap out of them, and have hilarity ensue, etc. But that's not the only reason with things to do, as we do have a few others to talk about as well, from linear to explorative like the Grasslands. As I've tried to emphasize, revisiting iconic locations like Junon, Cosmo Canyon, Nibelheim, Gold Saucer, Calm, Gungaga.
Me? Gone.
Evoked a feeling of excitement and enthralled me at every twist and turn, leaving me with a sense of rejuvenation that I had not felt in an open world game in quite some time, with only games like Breath of the Wild being a comparable second. Through each expansive open world areas that I listed, while you traverse on foot, on Chocobo, ride your buggy cart, all areas are individually littered with side quests, combat challenges, Queen Blood card games, treasure hunts, intelligence towers, notorious monster hunts, life springs, summon intel, etc. This in turn, if you're borderline ADHD like me, will make it very hard to move onto the main story due to the sheer amount of content to do. And while some of the content in each area can feel a bit of the same, such as climbing and clicking a button on a tower to unlock further objectives on your map, or digging with your Chocobo to find a mission objective, the overall as a whole content can feel not only rewarding, but give you quite a few laughs along the way as well, that utilize both the playfulness of the original game's style and goofy aspect of its bravado, and intertwine that with its engaging and flashy combat system that chains together to further expand on the deep lore Final Fantasy VII and makes you invested into each character. While it also lets players like myself and original game players have their Captain America moment when we hear specific music, or see Palmer teasing us and shaking his butt after he slaps it, it leaves us with a "hey, he did the thing moment." So I keep harping on all of this content and almost talking in circles in a way. And yes, that's kind of true, because there's so damn much to talk about that I can't cover everything. So while I'm doing this, I'm still thinking of ways to actually properly convey the full aspects of the game. Again, as stated, this game has content that extends into every major region, with Costa del Sol sharing a region with Coral, which can get a bit confusing when you're doing missions for our boy Johnny and he's like, "Bro, give me a Tonberry King crown." And you're like, yeah, sure, okay. And then you go to do it, only to find out that you can't do it yet because it's not available for a few more chapters. The same holds true for each region's World Intel as well. World Intel are a collection of 30 tasks that are completely optional that you can do in order to help out Chadley in collecting regional data, to unlock extra combat simulator missions, to further earn rewards such as materia, EXP, and accessories. The first of the World Intels I've already told you about, the Assassin's Creed towers that are scattered all over the world, and your objective is relatively simple. To climb it, press a button, and it does its little pew 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 and unlocks further intel on your map for you to find. Simple, yes, but somewhat exciting when you're in a new area and are intrigued to see what the tower will throw your way next, which sometimes can be very awesome stuff, like standing at the edge of a cliff, being deep in thought as you overlook the beautiful land of the Junon region as Karate Kid music plays. What? No, I'm totally dead serious. The music near Mr. Cranky Sleepy Boy on top of a mountain, who I'm going to call Ralph just because he looks like a Ralph. It totally sounds like Miyagi would be teaching me karate up there. It's awesome. Karate Kid awesomeness aside, this still leaves you with a gangbuster of content. So we might as well start from the top, then work our way into combat, then further details on the story, then my personal dislikes, and then I'll let you leave. Well, maybe. Further expanding on the world intel, you have life springs that you find, which are small natural Mako crystals that you can extract data from in order to learn about each region's lore, such as the war between the Republic of Junon and Midgar, which when exploring the Junon region, you can still see the effects and remnants of that war. Monster intel that allows you to enter a specific location of the map to fight a notorious monster that is way stronger than a normal enemy with an even greater challenge so that you can try to earn rare item drops off of them. These damn things kicked my ass, no lie, especially my tango against the Tonberry King. It made me feel like that Team Fortress 2 meme. I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me. Why do Tonberries have to be so dang freaking cute, but at the same time possess so much murderous intent with their stabby stabs? Is the world just that unjust? After following the crazy owls, who wouldn't stop calling me on the phone as I was playing Fatal Frame, as they lead you to life springs, kill all the notorious monster missions, then you are invited to even more Gaia world lore as you participate in divine intel that has you find layers of summons like Titan, Phoenix, or even Alexander, and participate in a muscle memory game in order to extract data from it that allows you to debuff the summon in your fight with them via Combat Simulator with Chadley. And when all three are collected, the acquired divine intel will make your summon materia even stronger than normal, which is awesome. Next up in the content related to the overworld are Moogle intels. These are both fun and a disappointment to me, much like my first date. The reason why I say disappointment is because in the original game, Mog House was a mini-game at the Gold Saucer where you feed a fat little Mog his treats so that he can get a girlfriend, and it was cute as heck. But here in Rebirth, it's a literal and physical Mog House out in the world that actually exists, which is both really cool and very weird. The objective of these houses is to help the nightmare-inducing Mog of the house get all the Mogs back to work so that they can open up their store for you so that you can purchase things with your acquired Mog medals. To achieve this goal of helping this nightmare fuel of a face Mog, you must chase down each friend and make them escape into a pen before the allotted time runs out, while they throw bombs at you, launch energy attacks, or make you slip on a banana peel. Get back here, you freaking jerk! Don't make me eat you! As I was saying, it's both fun and a disappointment for me. But I can appreciate the expansion of the concept, so I can't be too mad at it. You know who I can be mad at, though? Kate Sith.
Soft. Overrated. Pretty boy. A bitch.
He gets to sit on Tifa's lap. Jealousy levels rising, that piece of crap.
It should have been me, not him. It's not fair.
Finally, we have my favorite piece of side content in the game, the Proto-Relics. These are a series of quests that change every region, and I feel like they're the most fleshed out and imaginative of the world intel. For example, in the Grassland region, as mentioned before, you chase around the punks from Remake to different locations, beat them up, drop crates on their heads, and make them play dead in fear, which is pretty dang funny. I love these silly guys. However, as you head over into the Junon region, these proto-relic missions change again, but this time transforming you into block polygon models from the original Final Fantasy VII, and you're tasked with playing a game of Fort Condor, which was first introduced in Final Fantasy VII Intermission UV DLC. And then my last example for now, as I don't want to give up everything, takes place in the region of Coral, where you must locate reactors with a magical Coctuar statue to find hidden bases where you must strike a deal with Dobby, a goblin, in order to get the proto-relic from his possession. Weird, right? Yes, but very on brand for Final Fantasy VII. Doing all these in every compatible region will give you more insight and glimpses of another foe, Gilgamesh, who is just itching for your challenge. While you're exploring your head off, you will also have to retune your skills into getting reacquainted with the game's battle system, should you have played Remake or Intermission. While it's not drastically different from the core concept of the original game, or even a far departure from Intermission, it still pushes the system forward enough to make it that much more interesting and engaging by introducing a folio system that acts as your character's sphere grid a la Final Fantasy X, to earn more abilities, combo attacks, MP or HP up, defensive moves in relation to your character's levels, synergy attacks that allow a 2-character team up that changes based off characters in your party, that unleashes a wide amount of damage to your foes, including either raising your ATB, infinite MP for short periods, or invulnerability for a short period as a short-length buff after successfully pulling off a move. These can be used no matter who you are pairing up with. Whether it's Aerith and Tifa, creating a barrier for Tifa to jump and zip around in to fight, Cloud swinging Tifa into an enemy as she and Cloud double-team combo attack an enemy, or a Cloud and Aerith attack which turns his sword into a powerful magic blade. With 7 playable characters, that's dozens of different synergy combos to try out during the fast-paced melee combat, turn-based battle by pressing X to allow you to slow down time, to pick your more traditional style, managing your materia add-on for all characters, which includes weapon abilities for each character's weapons that unlock the more you level up your characters with SP points, that give upgrades like 200 extra HP, stronger synergy, skill upgrades to make your attack more potent, and other abilities that are not only unique to the weapon you're using, but to the character wearing it as well, which in turn makes each character worth trying out to get the hang of. Just like you, Tifa, and you, Barrett, and you, Cloud, and you, Doggo, and... no, not you. You dumb cat. Go choke on a fortune card and burn, Kate Sith. Much like the original title, here in Rebirth, I tried not playing him as much as humanly possible, but the one character I used a lot, in which I didn't in the original, is Yuffie. She's so awesome in this game. Maybe it's my bias, but her character development and fighting style is absolutely fantastic, and she's an absolute savage at building up stagger meters. So large expansive world with megaton to do, upgraded combo and upgrade system, fun world intel for each region, but I'm missing something. Oh yeah, that's right, the dang story! I'll dive into it a bit, but I'll try not to be too overly spoilery, such as major plot points that relate to the end of the game, but everything else will be fair game. Narratively, the game follows 90% of the same story beats from the original game, complete with Cloud and crew's adventure across the grasslands to Chocobo Bills, moving through the swamp to get by Midgard-Sormr, exploring the absolutely gorgeous Mithril mines with Barrett and Red, getting help from good old Mr. Dolphin as you participate in a race so that he can throw you to a higher platform, infiltrate Junon forces, and take part in a parade to try to get awarded the presidential accommodation that ends up with hilarious scenes of Turks and member Rude hanging out with his fellow bald brethren and singing their theme song while Aerith and Tifa act cute as hell as they pretend to be soldiers and arrest Cloud. No, Tifa, arrest me, not him! Those are just some of the story beats the game follows, flow for flow, bar for bar. But it also enhances scenes even further as well, with a full-on fight for Midgard-Sormr and Sephiroth's interference. New Shinra troop invasion scene during Calm to further up the action that the original never had, expanded story of the tragedy of Barrett and his friend dying that is a culmination of events that transpired 5 years prior when their hometown was burnt down by Shinra, which is extremely emotional. Bigger role for Costa del Sol, other than just a resort to kick a ball at Red or watch Hojo relax, and instead allows you to play dress up at the beach as you explore on your Segway, have a gigantic battle on the beach, and stare respectfully at Tifa as she just magically gets put in the tiniest bikini possible. I am definitely not sure how that happened. Extra stuff. What? We're still going? I know, but we're on the last 2 topics, I swear. It's just that you have no idea just how damn massive this game is. And you also have to realize that I've only talked about a tiny percentage of it so far. Besides everything that I've listed, there's still a fair share of things to do or discover that should you seek out to do so, or just want to do it because you feel like it. Beyond world intel, you have side quests in each region and towns that allow you to take on tasks for civilians that include events such as using the item maker in your main menu to create specific materials for a woman to fix her windmill, find piano pieces to get new pieces of music to play to get a higher rank on, participate in Costa del Sol festivities as you play a shooting game with Barrett to show off your skills as a marksman, collect all pieces of beachwear for Aerith, Tifa, and Cloud by finding pictures of painted coctuar hidden around the resort, return abandoned segways to their rightful spots, help crazy as hell Johnny fix up his seaside hotel alongside like 10 versions of himself that stayed in this reality due to Yuffie messing up her clone ninjutsu, engage in a Junon Army minigame as you try to lead your troops to the highest fan base as you perform live in front of a sold-out crowd, help the mayor of Calm fix the broken Mako pipes by seeking out the mercenary who said they would help but haven't, but it only ends up being Kiri from Remake who took up the mercenary name for Quick Cash. She's got way more development this go around and even has a banger of a theme song too. Then of course you have the Gold Saucer. I mean, what list would be complete without that? In this title, you will go to Gold Saucer multiple times, both story-wise and basically whenever you damn well want to, and just like the original Final Fantasy VII, there's a multitude of mini-games to play, some familiar to you with some twists, and then some brand spanking new. For example, you have minigames like G-Bike where you ride your motorcycle and slice and dice as many soldiers as possible to get the highest score, which I ended up doing. Then you also have Brawlers, the silly polygon fighter from the original, but this time it's in 3D and lets you dodge and throw punches, including using a limit break. Chocobo races to participate in, the Space Rail gun game, which is now turned into a Star Fox clone minigame, complete with barrel rolls and everything, which is awesome, before finally capping it off with the moment I've been waiting for to happen in high definition, the Gold Saucer date. I built everything up for this sole purpose. Being an ass to most characters, mainly Aerith so I can keep my bond level higher with Tifa, which like in the original game is the requirement to earn a date with your character of choice. But I wasn't prepared for what I was witnessing. If you've played Remake, then you know they teased a kiss multiple times between Cloud and Tifa, and it's like, oh my god, just do it already! So the anticipation was super high as they went on the Sky Wheel for their date, and let me just say, I was not expecting what happened at all.
Tifa, take his hand! Come on, take it! Oh my god, it's finally happening. Wait, a freaking hug? Square! You can't play with my emotions like this! I'm invested! Come on! Kiss! Kiss! Dang it!
Dislikes. Uh-oh, the dreaded dislike section has arrived, and contrary to what you've seen and heard so far, this game is far from perfect. There are several gripes for me that range from small to outright triggering when taking off my fangirl glasses and looking at the game itself from an objective standpoint. My first gripe is the existence of Cait Sith. Okay, no, I'm just joking, he's not that bad in this game. But you know what is? Queen's Blood. Look, I agree, the game is fun and even addicting, but from the very first starting moments in Calm, it's literally shoved down your throat. What starts off as a do-it-at-your-leisure type of activity starts becoming a mandatory thing after what feels like every chapter. For example, when on the cruise ship heading to Costa del Sol, you must participate in 5 rounds of Queen's Blood versus other passengers to even advance story.
Want me to go easy?
Want me to go easy?
Alright. Your funeral, though.
I was already burnt on the card game at that point, so I played around, then proceeded to forfeit the tournament to advance the story. Smart, right? I thought so. But then to finish the arc of the story, you have to play one more round as a mandatory story entry to advance, so skip or play, you have to participate. Annoyances aside, you finally make it to Costa del Sol, you finally get away from Queen's Blood, only to again have to participate in Queen's Blood in order to advance the story in a mandatory story mission. Okay, Square, I get it, you're proud of Queen's Blood, but please calm your butts down. Then, no more than a chapter or so later, as you gather food for your silly chocobo friend Pico in order to enter him into a chocobo race, you must play Queen's Blood to win him food so that he can recover from fatigue. Oh my god! Tonberry friends, kill me now. Moving on from Queen's Blood horror, my next gripe is a bit smaller and it relates to Sid. I really don't like how much his character has changed since the original game. He's not as rash or jerk or foul in this iteration of him, which was key to his character development as he changed from rough exterior type of person to more caring and understanding by the time the credits roll. But here, he's more like how he already was in Advent Children, more polite and understanding, and he's the only character I did not like with their upgrades. Yes, even Cait Sith is better. I never thought I'd see the day. My final gripe has to do with the damn plot ghosts, the Whispers. I hate the Whispers.
If you thought they were dumb in Remake, prepare to hate them even more now in Rebirth, because now there are 2 versions of them. Black Whispers are the ones that Sephiroth controls now, and then there are now White Whispers who are on Aerith's side, or rather the planet's side. Just what? I won't get into them too much as they partake in the ending of the game, and that's a huge spoiler, but they ruin and taint so much just like Remake. They're everything I hate from the new changes to the soon-to-be trilogy. Overall, at the end of the day, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth ends up an extremely fun, engaging love letter to the franchise. Yes, it has its issues with over-reliance on Queen's blood, questionable character changes, head-scratching elements in relation to Zack and those stupid-as-hell whispers, but with the journey of Cloud and his crew's constant emotional venture into new territories that strengthen the bonds of each character as the game progresses, that are interwoven with combat scenarios that offer variations to explore, like taking minecarts down Coral Mountain, using a new grapple hook feature as Yuffie to swing your way across sections of the map that only she as a ninja can do, synergy abilities that enhance the gameplay in innovative ways, like splitting the ATB bars and improving enemy stagger, driving around in the buggy in the desert and listening to character banter, engaging in quick combat system that keeps you on the edge of your seat, over-the-top silly scenes like Yuffie's attitude being infectious and showing off her kid side more, dance scenes in the Gold Saucer, and the battle with Dio offering creativity and laughs, etc., etc. Hell, I didn't even get into Bugenhagen and the amazing emotionally charged Cosmo Canyon talk, visit to Gongaga, stage play at Gold Saucer, Temple of the Ancients, Black Materia, plot twist with Sephiroth, Barret looking like this big marshmallow in a sailor outfit, etc., etc. Like I said, there's so much content in this game that it's impossible to convey in one review alone. So to wrap this up, there's 2 verdicts I need to give. One from the perspective of bias and a longtime fan of Final Fantasy VII, since it's my favorite game of all time, and then one from the viewpoint without rose-tinted glasses. The fangirl and FF7 fan of me absolutely adored this game from start to finish. Everything was damn near perfect in every aspect, from gameplay, environments, gorgeous music and visuals, side quests being fun and never feeling like a chore. It's easily one of my favorite games I've played in years, and my personal game of the year in this early going. Now, taking those glasses off, Rebirth still does remain a damn good game. But looking at it objectively, you can see it's rough around the edges in certain areas, like Junon where a glitch causes a bloom of sunlight that blinds you to the point of annoyance. Story can get all over the place with new elements added to the game, and not make much sense towards the end of the game. With all new folio and combat changes, even on dynamic mode, which scales enemies to your current level, they still manage to die rather quickly. Too much reliance on Queen's blood to the point that it can go from fun to obnoxious. Lazy environments like the basement of Shinra Mansion looking no different than your average cave in Remake, rather than what you'd expect under a mansion home, etc., etc. Rebirth to me, glasses on or not, is definitely a game that has flaws. Is it a masterpiece? No, but it's the closest I've leaned into saying one was. However, it loses out on that title for me due to the game's ending and how it takes place, much like my critique of Remake's ending. However, regardless of the game's flaws, I feel the positives far outweigh them by tenfold. And whether you're a longtime fan like myself or new to the series, there's enough content for every player to be engaged with for 80 hours or longer. So with all that having been said, my verdict is clear. Game and Chick says, buy now.
Walking city streets with worn cobblestones, listening to people rushing past to rhythms all their own.
Goodbye.
Life passing me by, not thinking how the years have flown, until I met